Welcome to our podcast today. Champions are built. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And it's Coach Aaron, the source. Good morning, EJ. Good morning to
Morning,
those
Aaron.
out there. You guys, please be sure to like us or tag us or whatever it is that creates the algorithm on YouTube and all this other stuff. And also comment. We'd love to hear from you guys on anything that you guys want to talk about, comments on the subjects that we've covered and even new topics. So don't be afraid to not just hit the like button. We don't know who you are, but also comment. Still won't know who you are. So, EJ, what's on the agenda for today's podcast?
Yeah, we have a nice broad subject here today, and it's named "Are You Doing the Right Thing?" And that can encompass a lot of things, Aaron's environment, home training, parent involvement, social media, just everything. So I think this is a good subject that is kind of comes up in spurts with this a lot. I think I get a lot of interaction as you do with parents, and they like to talk about different things. And one of them is, am I doing the right thing with my child or my athlete or my collegiate athlete, my professional athlete, whatever? And they don't know. And I think this is a good subject for us to kind of talk about and kind of talk about what's going on out there and from our experience and what's going on out there presently.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, when I think about this subject, I kind of lean towards right now because this seems to be such a reoccurring theme is environment. And I'm big on environment in creating the optimal environment for athletes. And that's not just the right training environment or competitive environment. I think that's where our focus tends to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think environment is the things that go on outside of the baseball field, the weightlifting room, the track, all of that stuff. And I want people to kind of consider what kind of environment their athlete is engaged in, growing up in, and how are they kind of contributing to either a positive or a negative environment. In other words, it could be the circle of friends. Well, let's start at home first. Let's start at home first.
Okay.
What's the environment at home in terms of the support that an athlete is given concerning their sports and their activities in sports? Are the parents engaged? Are they not engaged? Are they ambivalent about it? Does it feel like it's a burden to have to take your kid to practice or a training session? Is that something that may rub off on the kid? I've worked with a lot of parents who bring their kids and, they've got spouses who just don't want to, be involved in that aspect of it. And it's kind of put on one parent to, take the kid to the activities. Well, that's something you're just going to do it. Well, your kids still pick up on that sort of thing.
Right.
And to be involved in something that you love and not feel fully supported by those who are most closest to you, I think can have an effect from maybe creating some disinterest, maybe feeling like they have to succeed even more to make it pay off, which could be more pressure. Maybe they're less likely to ask to want to do the things that they need to do because they know it's going to cause some kind of friction. All of those things are things that affect an athlete. And I think an athlete's kind of like a plant. A plant grows best in the best environment, in rich soil and sunlight and the proper, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I just think from that standpoint, I think that's important. Now, going from the house, outside of the house, what's the circle of friends like?
Hmm.
Are they into sports? Are they supportive of the athlete's goals and aspirations? Do they get in the way? I've got kids now who are, you know, ninth graders, 10th graders, they're starting to get their first girlfriend, their first boyfriend.
Mhm.
And what's that push and pull like?
Yeah.
This is a story I've told 100 times, and I'll always tell it again. Probably one of my most favorite athletes to come through me and EJ's hands is Chris Carter.
Right.
And Chris is famous for saying he was a what, first round pick, I think. Uh,
Just very high round pick
yeah,
out of
very hard pick.
Stanford.
Yeah, out of
Out
De
of,
La
out of high
Salle.
school. Yeah, De La
Yep.
Salle.
He was having batting practice. The scouts were watching, and one of the scouts asked him, "Chris, do you have a girlfriend?" And Chris said, "I haven't found one who can throw BP yet." Love that answer. Love that answer.
Um,
So there are people who aren't going to necessarily be as enthusiastic about your journey as you are. And
mhm.
are you surrounded by people who help that or hinder that? And so I think that's a key. Workout mates. I'm big on this. Don't work out with someone who isn't as enthusiastic and going at it as hard as you are. Pick your workout mates wisely. And doesn't mean that you can't be friends, but maybe they're just not the right person for you to want to work out with, because maybe they're always late, or maybe there's this, or maybe there's that, or maybe they don't push themselves. You don't need that. Again, environment. It's like we have a podcast, the company you keep. That
Yes.
is very important on how you start to navigate things, especially being a young person and not having a lot of life experiences. You tend to sometimes get your cues from people around you. So you want to be surrounded by people who are driven, motivated, successful, all of the things that you're trying to do. And then outside of, the family and the friends, now you've got the team dynamic. Are you on a team that's doesn't have to be a winning team, but are they competitive? Do they want to be competitive? Does the coach have a competitive mindset? Is there a mindset of discipline and focus? All of those sorts of things. Those, again, all of that stuff can rub off on you, even subconsciously on an athlete. And if they don't know how to operate, well, who's to teach them? So I just think environment plays such a key role. I experienced it in my life, both negative and positive, and I just can attest that being in a positive environment, especially as you get up into the upper levels, is crucial for your mindset in handling what's to come at the next level. So.
Man, Aaron, you made some really good points. And I like a lot what you said. And just to dive a little bit into some of your points, the home environment's critical. I think, especially now, I think athletes need to be supported all the way around. Parent involvement. I always like to think of it this way at home with your family is it's like a team, right? And I think the team needs to be in or out. It can't be halfway in, halfway out. I've seen, as you have mentioned, maybe a parent that is taking their kid everywhere, and the other parent's like not really interested. And what kind of impact does that have on that athlete? I think is critical. So I tell people be in with your athlete, be in with them because they're going to need that support when they come home at the end of the day. Aaron, it's 24/7 with the parents,
Yeah.
or their team, or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's important. Um, the company you keep outside of the family is super important. Whether it's your friends, workout mates, team dynamic. I always like to think that the athletes need to have peace of mind when they're with their friends, with their workout mates, with their team itself. That they need to have peace of mind so they can function efficiently at a high level. And I think people take that for granted. Turmoil, drama, and stuff takes away from performance.
Yeah.
It gets you distracted from what you need to do. And I believe, and you and I can attest to this being high level professional athletes, You have to be focused when you go in the arena, on the field, whatever you want to call it. And I always tell people, if you don't really are focused, you can get hurt. And I think you're more susceptible to injury when you have a lot of things going on in your body, and everything that's at work in your body is stressed. You're more susceptible to injury, more susceptible of not being where you want to be. And I think that's important. And peace of mind and having and the mental side kind of cleansed.
Mhm.
The mental side is cleansed. It's clean. You feel good about what you're doing. You're comfortable in an uncomfortable environment.
Mhm.
See, that's the key right there. You're comfortable in this uncomfortable environment. And that's what makes athletes that are at a high level uncommon than other athletes. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I think that's important, is that as we talk about home training and your circle of friends and your workout mates and team dynamic, and I think of all the athletes that we've shared, or I've seen athletes come through the building at Game Speed and stuff like that. I see athletes, able to to do to do what they need to do, and they're comfortable. But the athletes that I see struggle with any one of these things, because I think they're all connected, Aaron, and I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel they're all these things are connected for success.
Right.
Whatever success means to you, okay? All these things give you that.
Right. No, I agree. And just before I forget, I want you guys to know, if you get a chance, to go back and listen to a couple of podcasts. One is Home Training, and the other is The Parent Effect, and the last one is The Company You Keep. Those are three different podcasts that we've touched upon this, but I think are worth revisiting and listening to. I again, I'll tell you right now, the problems that I'm seeing with athletes now aren't necessarily physical.
Mm,
Most of the problems that I'm seeing with athletes, and we've talked a lot about this, and we've talked to other coaches. We just had a podcast with a couple of coaches at Cal, and a lot of the problems I'm seeing that we need to start to get a handle on and really start to take seriously is the athlete emotional makeup, and recognizing what traits an athlete has and doesn't have, and figuring out how to get those, how to help those athletes attain those things that they need, whether it's resilience, whether it's being emotionally balanced, whether it's being more analytical, whether it's being more, what I see now, what I call being a more community or communal type of athlete. In other words, really understanding what you do and how it affects the things around you. Now, you
right.
might call that teamwork, but I think it's deeper than that, because if, for instance, it's one of my pet peeves, but I'm going to go there. If you've got a kid who will go in a public toilet or a public bathroom and SHIT all over that toilet and not flush it, knowing that he's got to share that gym with 20, 30 other people, that's not thinking outside of yourself. If you got an athlete who doesn't rack their weights, that's not an athlete who's thinking communally, So you got an athlete who, doesn't treat equipment properly. That's not a communal athlete. So an athlete that operates like that in their own personal space, their own personal life, probably isn't going to be the type of athlete who's going to think outside themselves when it comes down to, hey, in this situation, I need to put down a bunt. Or, hey, to move the next runner along, instead of trying to get this hit for me.
Right,
You know,
right.
this is an athlete who's not going to want to run the third leg instead of the anchor leg where he's used to the glory, because the third leg in this situation may help their team win, or is resistant to that. So, or the kid who doesn't pass the ball when he should. All of those things, I'm a true believer in you operate how you operate in all spaces. So if you're that person off the court, off the field, you're probably going to be that person on the court, on the field when the time comes, when the pressure is there, you know. And so I think those are sorts of things that we really need to take a hard look at with our athlete and saying, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, my son is, my daughter is a little, selfish. How can I help them work out of that and apply that to it and make sure they're applying that to a team dynamic? Maybe they're not, again, situationally aware and thinking about, not just getting my hit, but how is my hit going to affect this game and progress us as a team? So those are sorts of things, if you get what I'm saying,
Yes.
that I see that are starting to be lacking. And I don't know if it's just because we isolate ourselves more with social media and phones and the like, but I think we need to turn that around, not just from a sports standpoint, but from a society standpoint.
I think that's an amazing point, and I think that's lost in translation today with all athletes. A part of being an athlete to me is being a um, a team player on your team and outside in the community. That's being lost. That's not being taught anymore. And I think that starts at home. And I think we as coaches, trainers, need to continue to kind of push that forward because athletes don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, they don't. I mean, they only see a certain part. And an athletic endeavor for athletes is a very short time in your life. And I think when we can get them to start understanding that at a younger age, then they become better people. They
Right.
become better citizens, better Americans, as they say, right? And I think a lot of times that's not being taught. And I think that's the environment that you create as a teacher, trainer, parent, whatever you want to say. We need to create that because you're right, Aaron. It's lacking. It's lacking today. And I think that's why you see so many players that play team sports jump from one team to another, i.e., NCAA transfer portal. I
Mhm.
didn't get what I needed. I'm going over here.
Right.
But is the grass always greener, which is another podcast we have, Aaron? Is the grass
Right.
greener? No. I mean, listen to that too. So I like what you said. It's lacking. And I think there needs to be some sort of self-correction in that and how we go about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't have much more to say on this other than I'll leave you with this. Parents, we got to understand that we get out of our athletes or our kids what we pour into them. And we can't ask them of something that we haven't poured into them. And so I think behooves all of us to think about, hey, what are we pouring into our athletes, in our interactions, in our daily interactions. And if you're not pouring the right thing into them, don't expect the right thing to come out because that's what's going to happen. You pour good into your kid, get good should come out. You pour bad, bad will come out. So,
Mm.
and on the sports side, I understand a lot of parents haven't maybe played sports, so they don't know exactly what to do. But we're not talking about
Sport.
we're not talking about sport.
Mm-mm.
We're talking about, creating responsible, thoughtful human beings. And it does translate into performance. But
Well
anyway,
spoken.
I don't know how many of you guys probably even made it to this point. I'm sure I'll look at the stats and I'll see a lot of people who have probably jumped off the podcast when I went on my little thing there. But hey, Just trying to tell you what I see. You can believe it or not.
It's the truth. Well spoken today, Aaron. I love what we talked about. And again, this is Coach EJ, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see.